Good morning, everyone. We're so excited to have you for this special event. Now, this is our normal meeting time once a month, and sometimes we meet twice a month. But during our special event from Toastmaster to public speaker, we wanted to share our collective knowledge on how some of our members got to get to that next level, that public speaking level. So, whether you are deciding whether that path is for you or you want to further your journey, you are in the right place and with the right group of people, might I add. If you'd like to be a public speaker, but you're not sure you're ready, our next speaker, Jim Emery, a voice coach for singers and speakers, shares some probing questions that he is actually still asking himself in Confessions of a Non-Professional Speaker. Please welcome the vocal Jim Emery.
Thank you, Lori. So we're having a session this morning on becoming a professional speaker. How does it work that the first speaker says he's confessing he's not a professional speaker? Well, I am in the same boat as probably many of you are, trying to decide just how serious I am about this. So I have some questions, though, that I'm trying to answer myself, and hopefully those questions will be useful for you as you go ahead and evaluate your desires in that area as well. First question, do you really want to be a professional speaker? If the answer is no, welcome anyway. You may find some interesting things this morning. If the answer is maybe, well, maybe fits an awful lot of us. Hopefully you'll get some information this morning that will help you make that decision. And if your answer is yes, I really do, then as Lori said, you're in the right place. There'll be lots of information on that this morning. The first question after that is, why do you want to speak? Is it to pay the bills? That is, this is going to be your career and you're going to pay the mortgage with it. That certainly fits many public speakers. Is it to be famous? I'll admit that being in the limelight can have its pleasures as well, and many people speak just for that. Do you have a burning desire to share your message? That may be what drives you to be a public speaker, independent of all other motivations. Or maybe you just want to speak because it's fun. I think one of the introductions, Charlie's introduction went there, and that can be a driving motivation as well. Another question is, what value do you offer your audience? That is, if you're looking perhaps to get hired, are you bringing a value of motivation? There's plenty of market for motivational speakers. Are you bringing a value of education? Maybe you have a unique set of skills, as Daniel was mentioning in his introduction, that you can bring to others. Are you looking to bring entertainment? There certainly is a market for entertaining after-dinner speakers these days, and that can be a very interesting speaking market as well. How often do you want to speak? Once a week? Once a month? Maybe more often, but you want summers off? I think as you look at being a professional speaker, this is a good question so that you can plan your life around your speaking schedule. Is speaking the main thing for you, or is it the means to another end? For example, in my speaking, it is the means to another end. This is speaking and giving workshops is a great way of finding clients to do speaker coaching with. And so that is mine, but it may be the main thing for you. The question that may define this for you is, what do you want on your business card? Will it say consultant or author, or will it say speaker? So knowing if speaking is the way to get business in another area or if this is your main thing can be very helpful. Who is your audience? What is in particular the best audience type for you? Is it best to speak at professional associations? That may be a very good fit for some of you. Or corporations, that is a very different world, speaking in the corporate world and dealing in that space. Perhaps the best audience type for you is your community. That can be especially true if you are a speaker on political issues of the day. And certainly today, and Dot has proved that herself with her blogosphere work, YouTube and Facebook, the online world has turned into a wonderful area to be speaking in. What's the best audience size for you? Are you in your element in big ballrooms and auditoriums with hundreds of speakers? That can be a heady space. Perhaps hotel meeting rooms with dozens of people is a little bit better fit. Or maybe your best fit is down at the 10 to 20 area in community rooms where you can look somebody right in the eye and shake their hand. Or if you're online, maybe the audience size doesn't really matter because you're giving the same kind of presentation anyway. How many clients would you like? Would you like a fewer number with repeat business from those clients? Or do you really want to carry your message further to more clients and are willing to handle the management of a large number of clients? What is your brand? Another way of putting that I like to say is, what is your hook? If somebody comes up and says, I know you, you're the blank speaker. Can you fill that blank in? I do by saying I'm a voice and performance coach, and I hope people remember me and that's my hook. What are you worth? This is a tough one, and I won't spend much time here, but another way of asking that is, how good are you? And how do you know that? Do you have special expertise that would allow you to charge accordingly? How do you promote yourself? Ah, yes, this could be a whole seminar all on its own, and so I will postpone that for another day. Hopefully these questions are ones that are useful for you as you look at your professional speaking career. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Training to be a professional speaker can be a challenge. How much should you spend? Who should you reach out to for training? Can you find free or close to free training that is worth your time? These are questions to consider. In this presentation, How to Train to be a Professional Speaker, Jerry Grant will overview his training plan and offer some ideas for you to consider. Please help me welcome Jerry Grant.
Thank you. So you're trained to be a public speaker. What I want you to think about first and foremost is that there's an investment here that you have to consider. You have to invest in yourself because that is foremost in your plan. You're going to have to spend some money probably to make sure that you can be a professional speaker. So first and foremost, I want you to think about that. So the first thing I'm going to cover is fee opportunities, things you would have to pay for. First of all, this is not Diane's area. I Googled this and I've been looking at this for a while, but it has the same kind of name, and I'll get to Diane a little bit later, but this is called virtual speech. It's an online service where you can pay $45 a month. Diane's nodding her head. She probably knows it very well. Or $399 a year, and you can cancel anytime. Now, what I saw there were 7 courses that are on a public speaking path. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about traditional things you can do to train, almost like you're going back to college, maybe you could think of it that way. But as professional speakers, you always have to be sharp in your skill area. And the one course that stood out to me on their list there was how to present over video. And why is that? Because we are doing a lot of work on Zoom and online. So I think that's a course that stands out to me. How would I use this? I think that what I'd do is I'd maybe go, I'm thinking about this. How would I go about it? I'd think about spending maybe $45 for the first month and cranking out a couple of courses, as many as I could to get my value out of it. And if I liked it, maybe I'd do a second month and see if I could get through a few more courses, and then maybe I could cancel. So that's one way of going about it. And the one thing about this also is that Some of these courses are offered with a VR option, so you could get a virtual reality headset and participate in the course that way. Cost is about $399 though for a VR headset. The Meta Quest 2 is $399. That's the cheapest one. So I'm not sure if you would like to go that route, but that's one thing you could think about. Second in this area is the National Speakers Association. Charlie and I used to be in this for a while, and they have an academy. Every fall, they offer an academy that has about 8 sessions, it looks like usually, and you meet once a month for about 3 hours, 6 to 9 p.m. at a location. I don't know when they're going to be offering this for this year, but I would start looking in maybe June, July. I'm not sure if they have yet. I didn't see that. But it's offered by NSA members. Usually they facilitate it, and you'll learn a lot of different things about how they're going about doing their professional public speaking. And I think Charlie would agree with me that he might not, but we got a lot out of that because we had some very good facilitators, and they offered a lot of value for about $1,000 there. So that was one thing that we looked at as well. And I thought that's something that you could look at as something to do. Another area that's paid, I've done a lot of courses on Udemy, udemy.com. I looked, they had 5,000 plus public speaking related courses. Most of these are under $20. So you watch for sales, and they have, once you get involved, they send you sales information all the time. I get most of my courses there for about $15 to $12 each. I've taken about 44 courses over about a 10-year period. And I even am now taking a course on doing card tricks. So it's not all public speaking. You can do some fun things too. But I find a lot of value in that one. So you could look at udemy.com, coursera.com. Here are courses offered from universities and professors. I saw 104 courses there you could look at. There's a dynamic public speaking specialization from the University of Washington that has 4 courses. Here's one of those you got to watch out for, 7-day free trial. And then you could do a light program for $9 a month, but you don't get graded work. But a full $49 a month would get you graded work and feedback from the instructors. Paid coaching. Here's another area. This is a tricky one because you have to shop around. You have to find somebody that you would really work well with. And I think this is a real process when you get to that. We have some great people here. Of course, Diane does her thing at virtualspeechcoach.com, and Jim Emery does vocal coaching for people at vocalgym.com. So you can start there. And there are other people here that might offer the service too. I think Medea said she did. And I think that's a good way to go because at some point you probably will need a coach. So I would consider that, but take your time when you're going through that. Some more free options. I see my time's running out. TED Talks. TED offers a course. It's actually a $22 course. It has 11 lessons, and it's called the Official Public Speaking Course, TED's Official Public Speaking Course. It overviews how to give a TED Talk, the structure. What I've done with this one is I took the course, and then I started watching TED Talks to see if they follow the structure, and I found that most of them do. So it's a good learning experience. I like that one, and I'm considering how to use that a little bit more. I have to wrap it up. I think I saw the red. Toastmasters, of course, club speeches, contest speeches, guest speeches, speak at other clubs, training workshops, all those things. Once you have enough training, of course, you have to speak. And Jim gave you a few ideas about how to go about that. And last, YouTube. Just punch in some keywords and see what you can find on YouTube. There's just way too much there. I wish I had more time because I'd tell you more, but I think the key is you have to get out there, you have to train, and then you have to continue speaking. So back to you, Lori. Thank you.
A challenge to every speaker is to create images in their audience minds so their speech is remembered and shared. Anchors are important tools to overcome this challenge. Please welcome Sarah Bateman with her tip, Anchor Your Message.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. When I first got into real estate, I went to a seminar. And at that seminar, they gave me a little round button. It was a black button. It had a gold circle around the outside, and in the middle was "to it." Get around to it was their message. I probably lost this pen 20 years ago. but I can still remember their message, get around to it because it was such a good anchor. It was a physical anchor that I could hold, I could look at. It was one that I had heard. So how are you anchoring your messages? Because if it's not more memorable and shared, why are you putting that message out? There's many ways. One of the best ways is to tell a story. If people remember the plane going down on the Hudson, it hit a goose, and Captain Scully made sure everybody got out and were basically uninjured. They were fine. Well, on that plane was Rick Elias, and he does motivational speaking. He does a TED Talk, and his story starts out, imagine a plane climbing to 3,000 feet. Imagine a cabin filling up with smoke. Imagine the engine going clang, clang, clang. Wow, I can remember that message. You know, probably 10 years ago, he did that TED Talk, but I can still remember his story, and his story will connect me to his message. Another way to connect is a shocking statement. Now, there was a lady doing a TED Talk. Her name was Sally Cohn. And she started out, when I do my job, people hate me. In fact, the better I do my job, the more people hate me. That grabbed my attention to listen to her. Why were people hating her? Well, she was on Fox News as a commentator. She was also a lesbian and a liberal, and she did not last very long. She received quite a bit of hate mail. So shocking statement is the second way to do it. Third, you've heard how you put a word out there like SMART. We all have the SMART goals. We know what that means. We can maybe with a little bit of help go S, M, and we'll pull back the message from the word. The only problem is that you have to make sure of your timing. Mark Brown, who was a world champion speaker, had his word as scream. And then his time was cut, and he didn't have time for scream. He didn't have time to go through all those letters. So he shortened it to Sam. So if you're going to put a word out there, have a condensed version as well if your time is going to be cut. And then an analogy. How many of us can forget Forrest Gump sitting on his park bench going, life is like a box of chocolates. It's when you take two things that aren't similar, like chocolate and life, and find something that they both have in common, and you put that out there. So we have a physical object, the prop that I received way back when. We've got storytelling, we've got a shocking statement, we've got a word, and we've got an analogy. These are only some of the anchors that will anchor your message into somebody's brain, into your audience's brain. So which one will you use? Or maybe a couple, Madam Toastmaster.
Have you been entertaining the idea of becoming a professional speaker, coach, or consultant, but just not really sure where to begin? Would you like to get more paid speaking engagements and clients, but don't know how to set your fees or charge for your services? This morning, President of PowerTalk Seminars, founder of PowerTalk Toastmasters, and founder of Speaker Biz Institute, Vitalia Pundik, will share her Speaker Biz Cliff Notes and additional ways to scale your speaking business, as well as to help identify which clients and speaking engagements to pursue and which ones to turn away. She will also share important considerations for determining your own fee structures that can help you determine your own speaking services and fees. Please give Vitalia a warm, enthusiastic welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your event. It feels like a wonderful homecoming with all of my fellow PowerTalk Toastmasters. I love this group because it's comprised of speakers, coaches, authors, visionary thought leaders. We are all merchants of our message. Speaking on stage is just one means by which we get paid for delivering that message. However, did you know that you can scale your speaking business by diversifying your modalities? This morning, I will briefly share with you what I call my speaker biz cliff notes on how to add multiple streams of income to grow your business and some of the important considerations when it comes to determining your own fee structures for your services. And I'll also share with you how I choose to work with certain clients and which ones I will always turn away. I do have a lot of ground to cover in a very short amount of time. So if you have any questions, I'll just ask that you please write them down, and then hopefully I can address some of them during the breakout sessions. So when it comes to determining your fee structures or adding additional streams of income, we need to first briefly examine various professional speaking business models. Now think about your own current speaking business, or perhaps you haven't fully kicked off your speaking business yet. But if you did have a speaking business, what would it look like? Are you mostly a keynote speaker, or are you mostly a trainer, a workshop presenter? If mostly a keynote speaker, have you thought of ways that you can take that same keynote and create it into a workshop as a means of possibly generating more income for yourself? Now, I have been professionally speaking for nearly 20 years and have several speaking speeches on a variety of speaking topics. For each of my speeches, however, I've created 2 or 3 different versions of essentially the same talk. It's the same message, but essentially just a different way of presenting that talk. By having both a short version and a long version of the same presentation, I can easily adapt it for keynote style requests or workshop type of breakout sessions. The keynotes are generally designed to inform, influence, and perhaps inspire a call to action. While the workshop presentations can take the same topic, even the same message, but incorporate additional stories, examples, and audience participation activities. Workshops are more hands-on, interactive, and instructional in nature. If your speaking business model can convert keynotes to workshops and vice versa, then you have easily just created more potential to grow your speaking business income. Now, another way to generate more income and revenue is through consulting, facilitating, and coaching. As a consultant, this is where your clients will ask you questions. They'll ask you for your opinions. They might ask you to be their mentor. They might contact you for advice. You could be paid by the hour or by the program or the project, or one of my favorite ways, on retainer. I like those kind of contracts where there's an agreed set amount of time for services rendered within agreed parameters and an offer to renew annually on the initial anniversary sign-on date. Facilitating is where you are the one who asks or poses questions to your clients in order to draw out some answers and solutions to the problems that they're working on. Now, to be clear, you are not doing the work for them, but you're just letting them come to conclusions for themselves. And this is usually a short-term project for a specific outcome. And then, of course, coaching is when you ask questions to help your clients discover something within themselves. You are the encourager, and you are holding them accountable to follow through and commit to achieving certain outcomes or results. You're providing support along the way. As a subject matter expert, especially if you are well known in your field and are offering keynote presentations and workshops, you can easily add all of these services to your business model. Or perhaps consider, if you want, to drop the keynote presentations and the workshop training programs altogether. You could just offer coaching, consulting, and facilitating. But I do suggest, like Jim Emery alluded during his tipster role, just do it all. By speaking, you become more visible and better known. Thus, those are the speaking platforms that can become your marketing opportunities to acquire additional new clients for your coaching programs, consulting, and facilitation services. Then, of course, there are the seminars, the webinars, the teleseminars. And some of the ways that I have really scaled and grown my business has been to offer my own public seminars. Now, a word of caution here. While these can be lucrative, they are also extremely high risk and very time consuming. You're not only responsible for creating the content, but unless you have sponsors, you have all the fiscal responsibility. And unless you have a team of helpers or joint venture partners, you're assuming all the workload of securing venues, caterers, printing, marketing, filling all the seats, and so on. Just as an FYI, about 50% of my own speaking income comes from booked paid speaking engagements that I've secured through networking, warm referrals, spin-offs, or various speakers bureaus. And then the other 50% of my speaking income comes from really my own creation. It's the cumulative public seminars I host and the variety of small business coaching, leadership, and sales team facilitating and presentation coaching through my Speaker Biz services. On occasion, I also still get called and hired to speak as an independent contractor for other various seminar companies when I'm available and I can fit it into my already pretty full schedule. I also like webinars and teleseminars. Now, I used to do webinars long before Zoom came around, way back when, if you recall, GoToMeetings was a popularly common tool that we would use. By offering initial introductory webinars for free to my target audience, I could then scale and grow my business by promoting and selling tickets to my next upcoming educational training services. You can also host and charge fees for your own webinars, and it's just like putting on your own seminar, but without all those risks that I mentioned earlier. It used to be, though, at least for me, sometimes it was harder to get people to join and register for something online, and that the in-person events was really the better way to go if you wanted to get more registrants. But now, having been through the COVID pandemic and everyone being used to doing everything remotely or online these days, people don't seem to really mind as much, and they may even prefer to just stay home and register for a webinar through Zoom than to get out and have to travel and meet in person. However, I suspect for some of us, I do think that is also somewhat changing. Many people are getting tired of sitting in front of their computers all day and are just itching for more social interaction, for the in-person learning and networking. So many of us are really getting zoomed out. So I recommend, if you have the opportunity and the ability to, I really think it's best to just kind of mix it up a little, offer both in-person and in-Zoom events. Finally, there's the franchise model, even the licensure or certification model. One of the most commonly known franchise models in our industry that I can think of is the Dale Carnegie Institute. In fact, at one time, while I was living in Arkansas, upon having completed several of their programs, I did look into buying a Dale Carnegie franchise. And at the time, and again, this was like 20 years ago, it would have only cost about $50,000 to buy a franchise. But that's just to be able to use their logo, associate yourself with them, and offer the curriculum programs. You still had to secure a physical location, either by real estate or rent commercial. And then there were several other ongoing investments and expenditures. Well, ever since I started PowerTalk seminars, I've often entertained the idea of actually franchising my speaking company to grow and scale it nationwide. But there are a lot of legal responsibilities you take on when offering a franchise that always cause me to just reconsider, and I'm not qualified to advise on anything legal. I always do consult with my CPA and, of course, my small business attorney with Legal Shield Services. A great alternative, however, is to offer a licensure program or even add some kind of a certification program. You can take your speech content or workshop curriculum and sell licenses to other companies or individuals, giving them permission to use your materials, or provide some kind of certification that indicates they have mastered a certain level of expertise along with a license that gives them permission to offer and present your course materials. For example, with my PowerTalk Seminars company, I could either just expand my PowerTalk Power Club on my own, or lessen the expansion workload and sell a license to other interested parties who'd like to duplicate it and piggyback off the name brand I built within my speaking business, and then generate more profit revenue for both of us by scaling my programs and services that way. And then with regard to my Speaker Biz Institute, I have already had conversations with 2 parties from India who have expressed interest in bringing my coaching programs to 3 different learning centers there, as well as have been approached by another party in Canada that is interested in helping to continue my Speaker Biz expansion there. I used to offer Speaker Biz 3-day boot camps both here in Minnesota and in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Now with Zoom, I've made the pivot and offer 6-week virtual boot camps and can essentially expand to anywhere in the world. So looking at your own business model, what kinds of programs and services do you offer? Are there any additional ways you can think of that can help you grow and expand? And something else to consider is, what will be your retirement or exit plan? Have you designed and positioned your business model so that when the time comes, you could potentially even sell? Although it's hard for me to imagine that I will ever fully retire because I really do love what I do, eventually there may come a time when I may want or need to sell. I know that I have programs within both my PowerTalk Seminars and my Speaker Biz Institute that make my companies very sellable. Perhaps it'll be through some sort of certification program, maybe a franchise or simple licensure program, or just outright sell it all. But is your speaking business model structured in such a way that you could even just piecemeal out any portions of it? And if you don't want to, if you never want to sell when you retire, that's okay. These are just some long-term kinds of considerations for you to think about beyond where and how much you'll charge for your next paid speaking engagement. Eventually, you may want to spend less time on speaking stages and more time on the sandy beaches. Okay, so I have shared with you lots of ideas for business growth and expansion, but now let's move on to the most common question I get asked, which is, Vitalia, what should I charge for my speaking fees and services? And the easiest answer that I can give you is, it's your business, so whatever you wish. But the most helpful answer I can give takes a lot more thought and many more considerations. In my Speaker Biz Beginners Level 1 Bootcamp, I go over about 20 different fee considerations. And here's just a partial list. These are some of the common fee structures, but I mind you, one of the things that I encourage you to take away, your number one takeaway should be to be clear on your programs, policies, payments, and business procedures. Be clear in your programs, policies, payments, and procedures, business procedures. So there's the flat fee, all inclusive. You get paid your speaking fee and that's it. Travel and lodging is on your own. Speaking fee plus travel and lodging is really common if you're going to be speaking out of state or traveling out of the country. Then, of course, many speakers offer discounted fees for nonprofits. Sometimes it's a 10%, 20%, even as much as a 50% discount off of their fee structures. Now, I just want to make sure you don't get fooled by the word nonprofits. There are many nonprofits out there that have oodles and oodles of money. So don't get suckered into just giving a discount because you hear the word nonprofit. Another very common fee structure is the 3-tiered fees for keynotes, half days, and full days. I work with several speakers bureaus that like it when speakers have 3-tiered fees. A keynote will generally be up to 90 minutes. I know that's a long keynote, but let's say keynotes and workshop breakout sessions. Half days is usually up to 3 hours, and a full day is anywhere from 6 to a maximum of 8 hours. You might also offer a preferred client discount for multiple bookings or repeat business, especially if you have a great relationship with any of your clients and they keep hiring you back over and over. Usually with me, when a client hires me, I tell them book 3, you'll get 1 free. or book 4 and you'll get 1 more. So they pay me my full speaking fee, that 3 or the 4 times, and then I'm very happy to come back in and speak for free. For my public seminars, I offer early bird discounts and BOGOs, buy one, get one free, or buy one and the second person gets in at a discounted rate. I also like to offer group rate discounts. My small group rates is for a group of 4 people. A 10 group discount would be the person who organizes those 10 gets their registration completely for free. There are 2 other common fee structures. One I recommend, one I do not recommend. The official offer a fee range and negotiate per client structure, I do not recommend. If company ABC hires you for a 45-minute presentation and company XYZ hires you for the same presentation, but company XYZ can't afford your fee because they have a smaller budget, I do not recommend negotiating per client's budget. Rather, I recommend offering a fee range and negotiate by project so that you really are comparing apples to apples rather than apples to oranges. Perhaps company ABC hires you for a 90-minute workshop and pays your full fee. If company XYZ wants the same thing, but they can't meet your budget, then offer them maybe a 45-minute breakout session rather than the full 90 minutes. So negotiate by the project, not per client. The simplest is just standard fees apply and are non-negotiable. That's usually how I operate my speaking business, and I don't give any discounts for nonprofits. It's just simple, it's clean, but that's because I'm very clear on my programs, my processes, my business practices, my payments, my policies. So be very clear when you're determining your fees, what procedures you're going to follow. Another question that I commonly get asked is, how do you know when it's time to raise your fees? Well, there are 2 things that we might consider before going into our checklist. And one is, if the economy is strong, this leads to healthy bookings in our industry. And during the pandemic, we had quite a decline. Just about all the bookings in 2020 for me got canceled. I remember the first 5 I had booked just fell right off my calendar. They were falling down like dominoes. And I thought my entire speaking business was going to crash. Luckily, because I was open to learning Zoom, all was not lost. Although my booked speaking engagements took a part-time dive, because of Jim Emery's encouragement to continue and not quit, I was still able to maintain the other programs and services I was offering through the PowerTalk Power Club portion of my speaking company. And then with Diane's help, with all the technology that I was trying to learn to operate my PowerTalk Power Club or my Speaker Biz coaching, I was able to continue with my students when I adapted from in-person programs to online small group and one-on-one coaching. And now, even though I'm not highly proficient at it, I've learned to embrace it and I love it. Also, consider your fee too. If it's really low, that might be hurting your image more than helping. A lot of people think you get what you pay for. So when a decision maker sees your fee, does it boost their confidence in your talent or lower it? Now, I am not encouraging you to just raise your fees unless you feel you can provide the content and value to go along with it. The best step towards a fee increase is an increase in the ROI, or the value provided. Here's my checklist and several great reasons to consider a fee hike. Number 1, of course, is if you have published a new book. Being an author always leads to additional street cred. So take advantage each time you publish something new. Also, you might increase your fee if you consistently share the platform with people who charge more than you. How annoying is that, right? You take a look at their same kind of 45-minute presentation. They generally have the same kind of educational background you do, similar experience, but they're constantly getting paid more than you do, and you're speaking on the same platforms. It might be time to increase your fees. What about when your clients tell you that they would have paid you more and that you are offering amazing value and they're giving you a lot of praise? Take that into consideration. Maybe you really are worth more and should raise your fees. And finally, of course, if your calendar is at full capacity, it's supply and demand, baby. There is a price for popularity. Now, I would say if you are brand new, just starting out, and you don't know how much to charge for your speaking fee, start researching various speaker bureaus. Often they publish fees, or at least a fee range for their speakers. Read their bios, read their credentials, look at what topics are popular. Research which industries seem to pay more, and just by simply comparing your level of experience and expertise to theirs, that can give you some idea of a ballpark figure where to begin. Another way to help you determine your fee is to try to not charge too low or too high. I would suggest, however, starting on the lower end if you've never been paid before to speak. Once you have been able to secure at least 4 or more paid speaking engagements at your starting fee, whatever you decide that'll be, then maybe you can give yourself an incremental raise and reach for a higher fee. Continue to do so your first or second year. It may take you a while to just really get a good feel for what is your true value. A word of advice though, your true value isn't often what you think it is. Rather, true value is in the perception of the client, and it's whatever the target market or the industry will pay for your promised deliverables. So I'm soon getting ready to raise my fees, and I did lower them slightly to accommodate for a struggling pandemic economy, but that seems to have passed, and I realize that the value that I provide far exceeds the investment. Knowing when to raise your fees is not an exact science, but when you do it, be confident and fearless. You've got to price your value and value your price. So last but not least, let's take a brief look at which clients and speaking engagements to pursue and which ones to turn away. Whenever a potential client contacts me to work with them or wants to hire me to speak, I will have an initial conversation with them so I can learn everything I can about the audience, the topic they want me to speak on, and the outcomes they are looking for, as well as what their professional development and educational materials budget is. It's important to remember that this initial conversation is really an interview for both of you, the potential client and you as the speaker. You are both determining if hiring you would be a good fit for them and if speaking at the event is a good fit for you. I use a very simple rating system. It's almost embarrassing, but I use it to determine whether or not I will accept a paid speaking engagement or not. And basically the question is, how do you rate your clients? A, B, C, or D? I have 3 criteria in my rubric, and it's got to be the right topic, the right audience, and the right fee. An A client meets all 3 of these. It's the right topic. I'm a subject matter expert in that area. It's the right audience. I'm very comfortable with this audience. It's my target market industry. And it's the right fee. They've got the money to pay me. Of course, I'm going to say yes to those speaking engagements. Now, a B client meets any 2 of those criteria. So it could be the right topic and the right audience, but maybe they can't quite afford my fee. It could be the right topic and the right fee, but not exactly my best audience. And it could be the right audience and the right fee, but it's not my favorite subject, or I may need to brush up on that topic. I almost always accept these clients, but not always, almost always. The most important lesson I learned for me was that I need to speak to the right audience. Twice I've had a nightmare experience where I spoke to an audience that I really thought all of my material and my presentation style would resonate with this group. I remember one of my first paid speaking engagements was for Dunwoody College of Technology. And I was hired to do a half-day staff development training program on goal setting. And I thought, this is perfect. I'm so passionate about goal setting and positive attitude. And I worked so hard at preparing all the material, put in all the hours of work. I was polished. I was rehearsed. I practiced. That was a little bit of a mistake. Came off too polished. I had too many examples of cutesy stories that worked really well with women audiences, for some reason, they loved the fluff of my little puppy dog stories, my little seashell stories, my little find and reach the star stories, all precious, wonderful, high value stories, but not for an all male audience where 97, 99% of the audience were all male engineers. That was not a good fit. And I never wanted to repeat an experience like that. So that's why I say my B clients is almost always the most important thing here is know your audience. A C client will only meet one of these criteria. It could be just the right topic, but not the right audience or fee. It could be the greatest audience, but not my best topic, and they don't have money to pay me. Or they have the money to pay me, but it's not my best topic and not my audience. I'm not going to accept those clients, but I will try to be helpful and refer them to others who I know it might be a really good fit. And a D client, well, there's no discussion there. They just don't meet any of these three criteria. That's basically how I determine which clients and speaking engagements that I'm going to pursue and which ones to turn away. To wrap things up, we've covered a lot of ground here today in a very short amount of time. Everything from speaker business models that can scale and generate more revenue, various fee considerations for your services, and even which clients and events to pursue and which ones to definitely run away from. But of course, there is so much more to learn about the professional speaking industry. So, are you ready? Have you been waiting for this? If you've been entertaining the idea of becoming a professional speaker, coach, or consultant, but just don't know where or how to begin, or if you simply would like to explore this industry further, I do have a special offer for everyone at this morning's event. My next 6-week beginners level 1 speaker biz exploratory virtual bootcamp will take place this summer on Wednesdays, July 12th through August 16th. I'll be offering 2 different sessions to choose from. The morning session, it will run from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and the afternoon session will run from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time via Zoom. So this program is designed to help you clarify your subject matter expertise and define your USP, your unique selling proposition. We'll help you draft your business name and tagline and outline your vision, mission, slogan, and business objectives. We'll take a deeper dive in examining various business models and setting your own fee structures, and also help you to develop your flagship program or your signature story. And of course, there is really just so much more that we can go into. Space is limited due to the nature of the program. It's very hands-on, interactive, and I have just 6 spots available. The regular tuition for this 6-week program is $9.95. However, my special offer is what I like to refer to as the big deal of the day. PowerTalk Toastmasters and any guest present today can save $300 and register for the 6-week virtual bootcamp for just $6.95. And the offer is good until Friday. So basically, you have until the end of the week to get signed up. This is the same special offer that I make to all my full-time VIP Power Pals. So I really want to encourage you all as Toastmasters and visiting guests to take advantage of this one-time special deal. You can also register anytime beyond that if space is available and still get a small $100 discount off the regular tuition. But if you want the big deal of the day and save $300, then contact me by Friday. I'll put my contact info in the chat and we can either process your registration over the phone or I can send you via email a special registration link and we'll get you in. I sincerely hope that you have found value in what I had to share today. And I want to encourage you to not only discover your passion and develop your purpose and your dreams, but design a business model that is most conducive to sharing your message while at the same time delivering the programs that will help you command higher fees and raise your business to the next level of speaking success. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I look forward to answering your questions during the breakout session. And please do let me know if I can help you get started in your own professional speaking career. Back to you, Laurie.
Next, we will have a panel of speakers moderated by Dot Cannon. Dot Cannon is a radio broadcaster and full-time podcaster who worked in Southern California talk radio for more than 20 years. She now owns a small independent media company in Long Beach and is the host of a long-running STEAM podcast, Over Coffee, on which she and her guests share the stories of innovation at the intersection of art and science. Please welcome our panel moderator, Dot Cannon.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our welcome guests. This morning, we're going to be hearing from 3 professional speakers about what works for them. I'm also going to be asking for some audience questions in a few minutes here. First, though, let's meet the speakers. We've already had the pleasure of hearing from Vitalia Pundit. Welcome back, Vitalia. It's great to have you back. Stephen Shaner, the Attitude Chiropractor, is an award-winning international speaker. He's the author of the books, The Art of Being Awesome and An Attitude of Service. He's also the host of the Are You Awesome Today podcast and a professional magician. Wow, welcome, Stephen. And Diane Windingland, the virtual speech coach, was originally trained as an engineer, but since 2011, she has been speaking, coaching, and writing on communication skills, and she's published 12 books, including Impromptu Speaking, 10 Strategies to Think on Your Feet Without Tripping Over Your Tongue. Welcome, Diane. As we get started here, I would love to know how each one of you made the transition, about 60 seconds, from Toastmaster to professional speaker. May I start with you, please, Diane?
Great. I made the transition by really with Vitalia Pundit's help, because she encouraged me to attend the National Speakers Academy, as well as take a job as a workshop speaker for a local college that they use for lead generation. And then I just started talking outside of Toastmasters for various groups for free, and then got offered to have some paid gigs, and then I started increasing my fee.
And that sounds like a great journey. Vitalia, we didn't hear your otherwise great presentation. I would love to hear your story too. How did you make that transition?
My transition was fairly easy because I have a background in education. So I was always in front of the classroom, whether it was teaching students Spanish or doing staff development training. So going from teaching to professional speaking wasn't that difficult of a transition, but I really got my start and my encouragement. I think it was through Toastmasters as I was giving my speeches and the presentations at our Toastmasters meetings. Several of the club members encouraged me to pursue, and they said, you know what, you should become a professional speaker. I took a moment to think about that, and I thought, yeah, why not? I should. And then I started working for Minneapolis Business College and other seminar companies, and then created my own first professional speaking company, which was called Vitalia Success Seminars.
And you clearly love what you're doing. You were lighting up as you were giving that presentation. Stephen, how about you? How'd you make that transition?
It was fairly easy for me too, Dot. Like Vitalia, I had been working as a professional magician for many years, so being in front of an audience I was very comfortable there. I'd actually done magic shows for audiences of 5,000 plus, but speaking was a completely different animal. So getting in Toastmasters was huge, and I actually got lucky. We had a guest come to our Toastmasters club, and afterwards she approached me and offered to pay me to come speak at her company on 3 different occasions. So that doesn't get much easier than that. Once I'd done that, I thought, I need to be speaking outside of Toastmasters more often. And like Diane, I did a lot of free ones, but those generated some opportunities to get paid a lot more often. And then after going through Vitalia's boot camp, things really came together for me as a speaker, and I was able to increase my fees as well.
Some common ground we've just heard is that after getting out there and speaking, you were approached, each of you, and people saying, may we pay you to do this? But how do you actually approach an organization that might hire you without being, obnoxious about is what I'm always afraid of as a speaker? How do you market? How about you, Stephen? I'll start with you this time.
For me, the very first step is to, develop that relationship with the person that you're working with. Talk with them, find out what they're already doing in the area that you're teaching. So I focus on servant leadership and attitude. So what do they have going on right now in those areas? And sometimes I say, well, we're doing this, this, and this. Oh, okay, great. I can add to that with this, this, and this. Or they might say, we're not doing anything in those areas. We really could use your help. But building that relationship with the person you'll be working for is huge. And you really need to start there rather than coming right out of the gate and say, okay, I'll speak for you for this amount of money. Develop the relationship, and then you can talk about those other details.
I'm hearing you say augment and give more to what they have.
Yes.
Diane, what would you do if you had to approach somebody for the first time about speaking?
Well, typically, I do not approach people. They approach me because they found me on the website or someone has referred me. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I spoke for Deluxe Corporation, and I was referred by a Toastmaster who had heard me speak 6 years ago and recommended me. But often people just find me on my website. And my first approach is, hey, let's have a conversation. And I usually set up a Zoom meeting and I ask about their goals, what the pain points are, what their objectives would be in hiring me. And so it's just a conversation, as Stephen said.
Augment, get out there, have a conversation. Natalia, what would you add to that?
My experience is very similar to Diane's. Really about 50% of my speaking engagements, people do find me. They generally approach me. So I have warm referrals. But I would say that I also do a lot of networking, and I really like meeting with people just for conversations. And I try to learn more about their business and what they want to accomplish. And as I'm listening and asking the questions, rather than talking about my services all the time, I try to think about what can I offer that might fit to support that prospective client. Then I can provide some suggestions naturally through the flow of an easy, smooth conversation that isn't a sales pitch. It isn't, here's my big deal offer. It isn't, here's what I have to sell you. But it's just, what can I do to support you? So that's a little bit different than when I'm on stage giving a presentation with a special one-time only offer versus that one-on-one conversation in person. And it's how can we support one another?
I'm hearing you saying this is all about giving. I wanted to be sure and give our audience a chance as we're talking here to ask any questions that you're not hearing me ask. So anyone that has any questions, would you type them in the chat? I will have to keep an eye on the clock, I see, because we have until, well, we have about 6 more minutes, but we'll try to take as many as we can. I would like to know if any of you have had to draw a boundary. You mentioned free services, Natalia, in your presentation. But how do we get around the people that say, can I pick your brain nicely? Say no nicely. I'll start with you, Natalia.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Dot. I get approached for free information very often, and I am always happy to have those conversations. And I encourage anyone here today, I invite you to just contact me. If you have questions, you can contact me via email. I will put that in the chat momentarily or by phone. I am more than happy, and I welcome those opportunities for someone to pick my brain, because again, I love having those conversations, and it is an opportunity that does open the door for some potential future business. It gives me an opportunity to demonstrate some of my knowledge in this professional speaking industry, some of my areas of expertise. And also by doing so, when somebody can connect with me for just some freebie advice and services, it helps to not only build some rapport with that potential client, but also trust. People like to do business with people they like, respect, and trust. So I'm happy to be really generous. I do, however, my conversations will say, that's a great question. I dive more deeply within my programs. These are the things that I offer and go into more in depth. But let me answer your question here briefly, just to help give you a start. So there is a little bit of a carrot there. Always take advantage of that opportunity, but I'm more than happy. And I will generously write out outline notes and detailed emails, and I will provide you with a ton of resources. So I hope that was helpful.
That was hugely so. Let's quickly take a couple of these great questions. Jerry would like to know, how should a speaker adapt to the changing speaking landscape in the post-COVID world? Excellent question. Stephen, how about we start that one with you?
Look for different opportunities. The COVID world is what got me into podcasting. Okay, so there wasn't much going on from a speaking, and there was definitely not much going on for the magic world because groups just weren't getting together for those types of things. So what other opportunities are there? And there's several out there. I saw what some other people were doing. So I said, okay, let's start up a podcast. And I researched that. It took me about 6 months to actually get to the point where I posted my first podcast, but it's going like crazy now. And so you look for those other opportunities. And because of the changing thing, there's another opportunity to speak with your clients, find out what their changing needs are, and perhaps, change the types of things you're doing or the way you're doing your current programs. So don't be afraid to change. As things change, you can change with it.
Thank you. Diane, what are your thoughts on that, adapting to the changing landscape?
Well, you need to be flexible. You need to be able to do virtual presentations and offer your services virtually as well as in person. So that might mean you have to improve your skills. For example, sharing slides well, if you're going to use slides. You also may have to think about how you would do a workshop, like with breakout rooms instead of having people at tables. So you should be able to do many of your presentations in person or virtually.
Thank you. With the time running on us, Vitalia, I'm going to address the next question to you. Local Jim would like to know, how do you research other speakers' offerings to know what your unique value is? Great question.
I like to be very snoopy, and I go online and I research different speakers' bureaus. I take a look at some of the people that I know, and then I discover new people that I don't know. And I really study sort of their background, what their bio is, what kind of programs they offer, and what is the fee that they offer. And I think about the ones that are similar to my subject area of expertise. Do they offer anything different than I do? Sometimes it inspires ideas for me. And then I think, here's another twist on those ideas that can add value for what I offer to my coaching clients. Here's something else that can add value to my USP, the unique selling proposition. And so it's always, how can I package? How can I improve? What other ideas are out there that could inspire me to maybe do the same thing, but a different version? How can I put my own twist on it?
Thank you. Final question in about 30 seconds here. Wilhelm would like to know, if someone's currently employed, how do you know when to go full-time as a speaker? Diane, how about you for this one?
You need to at least replace your income or cut your costs. You shouldn't go full-time if you have people depending on your income. And look at ways you might augment your income through products such as books. I make several $100s a month just on book sales. Or you might have a coaching offer for some kind of consistent income. But don't quit your job until you've replaced your income at the very least.
Thank you to all of our great speakers today, Stephen, Diane, and Vitalia. Would you join me in an enthusiastic round of applause for their time and expertise? Great to talk with you, and back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
I hope you have enjoyed everything you've seen today. There is so much more that is part of becoming a professional public speaker, and I hope you got just a taste of what that might look for you. Please feel free to reach out to those who spoke today, others that are on the call. Also, joining this particular club, PowerTalk Toastmasters, it is a great way to learn more and to do more and to be more in this space. And we hope you'll consider joining us for our regular Monday morning motivations.